Good morning, students. How are you all? I hope all of you are doing well. A hearty welcome to today's English class. Today we are going to learn the 8th lesson from the Moments. A house is not a home. It is written by San Gaudioso. The story highlights the thin difference between a house and a home. We know house is a structure made for a human habitation, or it is a building where people live, whereas a home is a place where a family lives in a love and with emotional support. The narrator's house gets destroyed by fire and he gets a new house. Then he realizes that his home is the one built by the love and affection of his family and loved ones. Love and affection for one's family are precious. So students, take the textbook, page number 49. A house is not a home. This story reflects the challenges of being a teenager and the problems of growing up. How does the author overcome his problems? My first year of high school felt awkward. After leaving junior high, at the head of my class, with all the seniority the upper grade levels could afford me, it felt strange starting over as a freshman. So the narrator says that his first year of high school, he felt very awkward or it was very strange and difficult for him. After leaving after completing his junior high school, and he was at the head of his class and he had all the seniority of the upper grade levels. And after coming as a fresh person, a new student to a high school, he was feeling awkward and unusual. He could not accept the changes that were made, that he could not accept. The school was twice as big as my old school, and to make matters worse, my closest friends were sent to a different high school. I felt very isolated. So the narrator says that this school was completely different from his old school. It was twice as big as his old school. Also, all his good friends, close friends went to other schools, and he was left alone, and he was feeling lonely or isolated. I missed my old teachers so much that I would go back and visit them. They would encourage me to get involved in school activities so that I could meet new people. They told me that in time I would adjust and probably end up loving my new school more than I had my old one. They made me promise that when that happened, I would still come by and visit them from time to time. I understood the psychology in what they were saying, but I took some comfort in it nonetheless. So the author says that he missed his old teachers, and he used to go back to his old school to visit his teachers. And the teachers used to encourage him to get involved in the school activities. And slowly he would get adjusted, and he will love the school, he will have good friends and teachers, and slowly he will start forgetting his old school. So once he get adjusted to the new school, the teachers are asking him to go and visit them now and then. So the narrator understood that it is a psychology. In order to change his mind and to give him courage, they told him like that. One Sunday afternoon, not long after I had started high school, I was sitting at home at our dining room table doing homework. It was a cold and windy fall day, and we had a fire going in our fireplace. So one Sunday afternoon, soon after, not very long after, he joined the new high school. So he was sitting at their dining room table and doing his homework. And it was very cold and windy fall day. And they had a fire going on in their fireplace. So in order to warm the house, they put a fire in the fireplace. As usual, my red tabby cat was lying on top of all my papers, purring loudly and occasionally swatting at my pen for entertainment's sake. So, as usual, the narrator had a pet cat. It was sitting by the side of him on the papers where he was doing the work, and it was purring. Purring means mewing or crying loudly. Now and then it was swatting. Swatting means hitting at his pen just for entertainment's sake, just for fun. It was playing with his pen. She was never far from me. I had rescued her when she was a kitten, and somehow she knew that I was the one responsible for giving her the good life. So the narrator once happened to rescue this kitten from a dangerous situation. So after that, it used to accompany the narrator wherever she goes, and she used to play with the narrator. So because the cat realized that or understood that it was the narrator who saved her life. My mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. Meanwhile, his mother was tending the fire and keeping the house warm. Suddenly, I smelled something strange, and then I noticed it. Smoke pouring in through the seams of the ceiling. So as he was doing his homework, suddenly he noticed that the smoke was filling the room, and he could feel the smell of it. And it was pouring, smoke was pouring in through the seams. Seams are the joints of the ceiling. The smoke began to fill the room so quickly that we could barely see. So the smoke filled the room so quickly that they could not even see. Barely see means hardly, or they could not see anything in the room. Groping our way to the front door, we all ran out into the front yard. So the narrator and his mother somehow groping or searching, trying to move in the smoke. It was not, the way was not clear. Somehow they managed to come to the front door and ran out to the front yard. By the time we made our way outside, the whole roof was engulfed in flames, and it was spreading quickly. So by the time they made their way outside, the whole roof was engulfed in flames. It was burning and it was spreading quickly. The house was burning so quickly and spreading everywhere. I ran to the neighbors to call the fire department while I watched my mother run back into the house. So the narrator ran to the neighbor's house to call the fire department to put out the fire. Meanwhile, his mother ran into the room to the house to take something. My mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents. Then his mother came out with a metal box which was full of important documents. She came out with that metal box. She dropped the case on the lawn and in a crazed state ran back into the house. After keeping this metal box on the yarn, and again she ran to the house to take something. I knew what she was after. My father had died when I was young, and I was certain that she was not going to let his pictures and letters go up in flames. So the narrator had lost his father when he was young. So the mother was going inside the house to get his pictures and the letters that were preserved. They were the only things that she had to remember him by. Still I screamed at her, "Mom, no." So he understood that it was for that purpose, in order to take the letters and the pictures of her husband. She was going inside because she did not have any other thing to keep as a memory of her husband. Then the narrator screamed, "Mom, no." So he was asking his mother not to go inside because the house was burning and it is dangerous. I was about to run after her when I felt a large hand hold me back. It was a fireman, and he was frightened of his mother would get caught up in the fire, so he was running back of her. Then somebody came and caught. It was the fireman caught hold of him. I hadn't even noticed that the street had already filled with fire trucks. By the time the street was full of fire trucks, they came to put out the fire. Fire engines were ready there. I was trying to free myself from his grasp, yelling, "You don't understand, my mother is in there." So the narrator was shouting, he was crying loudly, "Leave me, let me go inside because my mother is there. You don't understand because my mother is inside the house." He held on to me while other firefighters ran into the house. So this firefighter, he caught hold of the narrator while the other firefighters ran into the house. He knew that I wasn't acting very logically and that if he were to let go, I would run. He was right. So the firefighter who caught hold of him understood that the narrator was not in a state of logic, that he was not able to think at that time because he is guided by the emotions, that he has seen that his mother has gone inside to take something and he was worried. He wanted to save his mother from the fire. "It's all right, they will get her," he said. So the firefighter said, "You don't worry, other firefighters will get her outside." He wrapped a blanket around me and sat me down in our car. So this firefighter took hold of this narrator and wrapped him inside a blanket and made him to sit inside their car. Soon after that, a fireman emerged from our house with my mom in tow. So soon after that, he noticed that another fireman was catching the hand of his mother and came out, and he was coming accompany his mother. He quickly took her over to the truck and put an oxygen mask in her, ran over and hugged her. All all those times I ever argued with her and hated her, punished at the thought of losing her. So he quickly took her over to the truck. He took his mother to the truck and put an oxygen mask on her. And he the other ran over and hugged her. All those times I ever argued with her and hated her. So many times he used to argue with her and hated her. But now everything disappeared. His mind was he was thinking of losing her. That he would lose his mother and he would be an orphan. So that made him run to his mother and hug her. She was going to be okay. She's going to be okay, said the fireman. She just inhaled a little smoke. And then he ran back to fight the fire while my mother and I sat there dazed. So she is going to be okay. The fireman told that she is going to be okay because she had inhaled a little smoke. That is why she is feeling suffocation and she will be all right soon. So he ran back to fight the fire while his mother and the narrator sat inside the car. They were wondering. I remember watching my house burn down and thinking that there was nothing I could do about it. So again the narrator is later on thinking how he was helplessly sitting inside the car. He could not help stop the burning of his house. 5 hours later the fire was finally put out. So it took 5 hours to put out the fire. Continuously the firefighters were working towards it. Our house was almost completely burned down, but then it struck me I hadn't seen my cat. So his house was almost completely burned. Then he remembered that about his pet cat, whether it is killed or it disappeared. Where was my cat? So he was asking. Much to my horror, I realized that she was nowhere to be found. So suddenly he got frightened and he realized that this cat is nowhere to be found. Then all at once it hit me, the new school, the fire, my cat. I broke down in tears and cried and cried. I was suffering loss big time. Then immediately he was thinking of his new school. Already he was finding difficult in the new school. He did not have any new friends. Teachers were strange to him and he lost his cat, his house, everything. He was in a depressed state and he started crying loudly. The firemen wouldn't let us go back into the house that night. The firemen did not allow them to go back to their house that night. It was still too dangerous because everything burned and the smell was there. It was very dangerous to breathe that air, burning air. Dead or alive, I couldn't imagine living without knowing about my cat. He was more than all worried about his cat. He wanted to know where she was gone. Regardless, I had to go. We piled into the car with just the clothes on our backs and a few of the firemen's blankets and made our way to my grandparents' house to spend the night. They did not have anything with them, only the clothes that they were wearing, and they collected some of the blankets that were given by firefighters also. What was left, they got inside the car and they went to their grandparents' house to spend the night. So students, I stop the class here. Read the story. So thank you students. Have a nice day.